Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Sarjeet Herald and I'm the director at India STEM Foundation. India STEM Foundation is the national organizer of World Robot Olympiad in India, and its objective is to promote science and technology and STEM across India so that kids and schools and even industry can work together and take this initiative forward and make exciting creations. So today I have with me Mr. Aditya Bhatnagar, who is the STEM mentor at St. Kabir Public School, Chandigarh, and he will enlighten us with his experience, with his knowledge, and why STEM is important for young learners like you. So hello, Mr. Aditya, welcome
Morning.
to this session. And so, can you please tell us a bit about yourself before we get into the questions?
By profession, I'm an engineer. I did my engineering from IIT Delhi, and I have been associated with electronics manufacturing for close to about 30 years. For the past 10 to 12 years, or 13 years now, I've been working in this field of education, specifically STEM education for schools for the past about 6-7 years.
Thank you so much. Very exciting. So, Aditya, the first question to you is, what initiatives are you or your school is taking to expose students to STEM education?
Great question. So I think, first of all, that STEM is a discipline for developing habits of thought. And that's a very important understanding that everyone needs to have. It's not something which is a subject. So what at our school we do is we run a STEM program, which is curriculum linked, and that runs from grades 3 to 8. It is program, so there are lesson plans. There is everything which goes in for a normal thing. However, the difference is that our emphasis is on understanding and developing that habit of thought. So if we have not succeeded, let's say in the time period given, we extend it because we are not having to cover a particular kind of curricular goals or something like that. But we do have learning outcomes, we have an assessment, and it's all very exciting. For example, for grade 4 students, when they read about external and animals with external ears and without external ears, we could put them the question that we have external ears. What if we remove this? We just take out this ear. Will it make a difference? And can they develop an experiment for that? So things like that, which happen in a STEM class. They're all very noisy. Children have a lot of fun, but that's how STEM is.
The whole idea is about that kids can collaborate together. A bit again, coming back to what you answered, aligned with the curriculum. Is it aligned with the syllabus which they're studying at the school?
Yes. So what we do is we pick chapters or things which they are currently doing so that the student sees a connect, the child sees a connect, the parent sees a connect, that it's not something which is completely outside of their experience. They have experienced something in class. Now they are trying to look at it from a completely different lens.
So my next question is that how do you think that STEM education can strengthen the implementation of National Education Policy 2020?
I think that's a wonderful point. The NEP talks about scientific temper, developing that. It's a very important, it's I think one of the things which is repeatedly talked about in the NEP, also the draft National Curriculum Framework, which is there. There's a lot of emphasis there as well, not only in science, but also in social science and other areas. It also talks about problem solving and logical reasoning. All these are intimate components of STEM. And the STEM that we do makes students do problem solving, developing that scientific temper, like I talked to you about the year example for problems, particularly engineering type problems. For example, children are fond of making planes, paper planes. So we tell them, okay, you have paper plane. Now you have to engineer a plane so that it can carry 5 paper clips, and it has to land on a ship. We make a small ship. So it's a difficult thing to do, and they have to solve that problem by experimentation, by reasoning, by whatever. They realize that problem solving is not just you picking up something from a book, and that's what NEP is all about.
Yeah, and I think personally it's very important to be a problem solver. It doesn't depend that you're into science, commerce, or arts. Wherever you go, you face a lot of problems, and we should be preparing our kids to be problem solvers, and that's how new solutions come up in the future.
So in fact, the NCF talks about the disposition. So we are having a disposition of problem solving. It's fantastic if we can develop that.
So you'd already hinted a bit when you were answering about NEP. hands-on training for students. So why do you think that hands-on training is needed or is important?
Dr. Harold, I think more than you would know it, that we imagine that everything will work when you put a robot together, for example. And when you put it together, the first time it doesn't work. Something has gone wrong, a wire is not there, or whatever, it doesn't work. And even in the WRO, there are instances where students have practiced at everything, and then when they have their robot there or right in the field, they find it's not working. That hands-on education gives you a challenge, and it connects you to the practical and the real world, which is what is extremely important for industry and for life. Whenever they're doing in life, you're going to be living in the real world. It's not a world of books and academia.
Absolutely. And hands-on training really prepares them to overcome their failures. Okay. So my next question is, you've been an academician for a long time. You have got a lot of experience. So what is your favorite equation, formula, or any code which you want to share with us, and why?
I picked Newton's law of gravitation. And I find this very fascinating because it helped us to understand things, and it also was incomplete, and which is everything about science also. So most students in probably 9th and 10th would know that the equation is F is equal to G into M1 M2 by R squared. Now, it implies that the gravitation is only between two things, whereas actually, everything has got a gravitational force. So if you want to find out the force between when 3 or 4 things are acting together, it's very difficult. And this equation doesn't tell you that. So in that respect, it's incomplete. And historically, it took about 200 years to figure out more about, how multiple objects could interact. The second thing which I find fascinating about this is that, let's say, this is what Einstein imagined actually, that there are two bodies very far apart, and one body just crumbles or disintegrates. There was a gravitational force between them. Instantly, the gravitational force would have changed. Now, it can't be instant because nothing can travel faster than the speed of light, not even information. And that's what led to an understanding of gravitation, which is not a force, but a distortion of space and time. This is an equation which, it's like a tunnel. Here, and you see something, and then you keep on going further and further and further. That's why I find it fascinating.
And my last question to you is, we have already discussed that hands-on training can prepare students and help them deal with their failures. But for you personally, how do you deal with failures? And if you can share one example that will help our listeners understand it in a more practical way.
Oh, sure. I have lots and lots of failures in my hands. And so I'll take one example. I'll look at 2 levels of failures. One level is something which is a practical thing which is happening. Let's say you're building up a popular experiment is a volcano. You're setting up a volcano, maybe with hydrogen peroxide or with soda and vinegar. So in one of the setups, everything was set up, and I poured in the hydrogen peroxide and I put in the oxidizing agent, and nothing happened. Of course, it was a complete failure. So how I dealt with that was, what I tried to do is I tried to explain why is it failed. And what I did was I took that hydrogen peroxide, remaining part of it, and took it on my finger. And I said, look, it's not bleaching my fingers. Normally, hydrogen peroxide will temporarily bleach your finger. It's not doing that, which means it's been exposed too long or exposed to light or whatever. So it's become water. So now whatever you're putting it in water, there'll be no reaction, which is what we expect to happen. And so you discover the reasons of failure in a practical aspect. And that's very important for students to do, because rather than getting disheartened, they should try to find the root cause and things like that. The other level is that of education. Let's say we have a program, we've done something, but we find that 60% or 70% of the class is just not with you. And that does happen. And if it is happening, then it is extremely important to rethink your plan, redevelop your teaching learning materials, and also extend the lesson. So that's how I deal with failure.
Thank you, Mr. Aditya. I think it was really nice discussing with you. And I think one of the key takeaways from this session for me personally is that STEM education really prepares you for life. And we all have failures. It could be professional failures, it could be personal failures, but understanding why is very, very important. Answering that why in order to overcome those problems, those challenges, and be ready to win tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for your time, Mr.
Thank you so
Aditya.
much.